A new poll showing Hillary Clinton leading the Democratic race, making news right now. But can she stay out in front? The Quinnipiac University national poll puts Mrs. Clinton in the lead at 45%. Her lead over Bernie Sanders is slipping by 10 percentage points. And Joe Biden, who's yet to announce, even if he's in the race, as Molly just pointed out, third with 18%. Even if Biden officially enters, many think Mrs. Clinton could maintain her lead. And that includes associate editor of Larry Sabato's Crystal Ball, Jeffrey Skelly, who says what it really comes down to is this: there is no Barack Obama in this cycle's Democratic field. Neither Joe Biden nor Bernie Sanders are likely to fill that role. And Mrs. Clinton's solid support among non-white voters may endure even if Biden throws his hat in the ring, positioning her to remain the favorite in the long run. Joining us now with his thoughts on all of this and the crystal ball he forecasts, Larry Sabato. He is the director of the Center for Politics at the University of Virginia. Welcome, sir. Great to have you back on the show.
Thank you so much, Uma.
So Mrs. Clinton's support remains solid, according to what you're forecasting at this point, given the fact that there's no Obama in this race.
Yeah, reasonably solid. You never know what's going to happen if Joe Biden does jump in, but clearly he's got a mountain to climb, and that mountain may be Mount Everest. It's going to be very difficult for him to overcome that long lead that Hillary Clinton has, not just in money, not just in organization, but even with the so-called superdelegates, the elected officials of the Democratic Party, many of whom, a majority of whom, probably have already pledged to her. Now, they can change their minds, but it's difficult to do that once you've made an announcement.
But there is news and reports that I've read that a number of big-time Democratic donors are really worried about her dropping favorability numbers right now, particularly in light of the emails and the growing scandal surrounding her server. If that continues, isn't it likely that she could really be on shaky ground, particularly if some of these big backers decide to defect and go towards Joe Biden? Should he step in?
Uma, you've just put your finger on the one thing that could catapult a candidate, Joe Biden, into the Democratic nomination. If Hillary Clinton does not get a handle on this email scandal, controversy, whatever you want to call it, if she continues running a subpar campaign, which she has been doing in many ways, I call her bubble wrapped, because she doesn't have the kind of exchange with voters, with the press, that many other candidates have, both on the Democratic and Republican side. If Joe Biden wants to jump in, he might be doing it to wait for a Clinton collapse, because look at the other candidates on the Democratic side. I think it's very unlikely in the end that Democrats would nominate Bernie Sanders. And the other Democratic candidates have made no real impact at all, at least to this point. So you can see the justification for a Biden candidacy. But whether he wants to do it under those circumstances, which depends on a Clinton collapse, not really his work, but a Clinton collapse, is another question.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly a lot to take in here, particularly if this investigation continues to prove more damaging for Mrs. Clinton. You know, on the other side, on the GOP side, we keep hearing about the fact that that Donald Trump is confounding the so-called experts, that the playbook for politics and political campaigns is really being thrown out at this point, because it seems as though he has the kind of momentum that many believe will last, and that people say they have not seen before in this type of, in the way that he's running it, in the way that all the elements are coming together. What's your reaction to all this?
Well, it's certainly unusual, and it's also the summer of the year before the presidential election. Now, I'm not saying Donald Trump's support will disappear. I'm not saying it will greatly diminish, but I can certainly tell you, as the number of Republican candidates left in the field is reduced, and that's going to happen naturally. There's a winnowing even before the first votes are cast in Iowa. As you get fewer Republican candidates, there will be more of a coalescing of support, and I don't believe it's going to coalesce around Donald Trump. It's kind of Donald Trump versus most of the rest of the candidates.
When do you think this winnowing out process is going to begin? When do you think that's going to start to happen?
The winnowing? Well, I think it's already happening behind the scenes. You know, if you can't get in the adult debates, your money's going to dry up. And that's happening to a couple of those candidates, maybe more than a couple, that were, as we say, at the kids' table debate on Fox a few weeks ago. And we'll see what happens in the second debate at CNN, whether a different group of people get into that adult table versus the kids' table. But that's going to have an impact. The donors have an impact. They can withdraw their money. And look, staffers don't work for free in most cases.
No,
We've
they
already
certainly
seen some
don't.
examples of this. They move elsewhere.
They sure do. All right, Dr. Sabato, always great to have you on board. Loved your forecasts and your crystal ball. Always tune into that. All right. Good to see you, sir.
Thank you, Uma.